Hi Marcy, this is George Sherritt. I've just finished doing your home inspection and I'm going to do a review here for you. Trying to get rid of the glare on the screen here. That's the best I'm going to do. Okay, so I take a picture of the front of the house just to put on the front of my report. The siding, I believe, is probably an asbestos shingle siding. Without having it tested, I can't tell you 100% for sure, but I've seen a lot of this and I'm pretty certain that's what it is. As long as you don't disturb it, asbestos doesn't hurt anyone. You have to get it airborne and get it down in your lungs for it to cause a problem. So if you were going to do any remodeling work or something like that, then you might want to have it tested to know how to treat it, how to handle it. This downspout ends just right next to the house here. It's a very small little front porch roof, so there's not a lot of water there, but it's a good policy to always direct the downspouts away from the house with a splash block or an extension. The bottom rail on this front porch railing here has wood rot in it in several places, so eventually you'll want to have that replaced. The stairs on the back deck are in contact with the ground, so anytime you stick wood in the ground, it's going to shorten its life. Also, the way they built the deck, they put the posts down in the ground, so that's going to eventually deteriorate. These stairs are also in the dirt. There's a few areas of the siding that have been damaged and they've tried to patch them here and there, but it's still kind of open to the weather. So I'd recommend you have a licensed contractor seal up all the places that are open to the weather. This is kind of the weather side of the house, the southern side of the house, so it gets rained on pretty hard. One thing we look for is above windows and doors that are very exposed like this would be flashing. Flashing is metal that goes up behind the siding and then comes out over the trim to keep water from getting back there. The way it is now, it's relying on caulking, and caulking is temporary. It does fail in time, so you either need to kind of monitor this or have a contractor flash the exposed windows. Here's an area on the side of the window that was caulked and the caulk has failed, and so now that's open to the weather, so I'd recommend that be sealed. There's been a little remodeling here, I think, when they replaced this window, and there's no caulking or there's no flashing above that window, so that should be sealed. The electrical wiring out here that goes to this light is not rated to be out in the sunshine. So I've seen that where the insulation eventually just deteriorates and falls off. So have a licensed electrician correct that. These stairs are in the dirt here and there's wood rot at the base where they're in contact with the ground. Same thing over here. This right-hand rail as you're going up the stairs is very loose. So I'd recommend have a contractor correct that. This is another area. This is the back left corner of the house that's open to the weather, so I'd recommend that be sealed. The dryer vent is missing what we call a small animal cover. It usually has 4 little flappers right here that stay closed most of the time, and then when the dryer is in use, they blow open. So having it open like this kind of invites rodents or cold air into your house. So I'd recommend a cover be put on that. This is another area where the caulking has cracked and could let water in. Also, this is the paint's peeling. This is on the left wall of the house. The paint's peeling off the trim in a few places. This is one of the deck posts that's pretty badly rotten. You can see right here. So there were several of these. So and several places where there was wood rot on the stairs. So I'd recommend you have a licensed contractor, go through and look at each post and every set of stairs and replace the rotten wood. There's moss on the roof. It's not real bad. It'd be a good idea to have someone put moss killer on the roof, and that would take care of it. You don't want to let anyone pressure wash the roof. It really shortens the life of the roof. That's a 30-year architectural laminate roof, and I'm guessing it's 10 to 12 years old, so it should have some life left in it for you. The chimney is basically abandoned. There's nothing in the house that's connected to it. I did notice that it's open to the weather here, so it would be good, a couple options. You could put some kind of a cap or cover on it. You could also have it taken down. They come apart very easily when they're this old. Somebody just goes up there with a hammer and taps each brick and then throws it out into the yard. Take it down below the roof line and then weave in roofing. Because it's always a potential source for a water leak where the flashing is on the chimney. But at any rate, at a minimum, I'd recommend it be covered to keep bats and birds and rain out. There's another close-up of the roofing with moss. This is another post on the deck that's rotten. This is in the electrical panel that's on the back wall of the house. Someone who wasn't an electrician wired an Instahot heater, and the first thing I noticed is they trimmed the insulation on these wires way too far back. And the other thing I noticed that it's stranded wire, that quite a few of the strands were broken. And so there's not a complete electrical connection going on there. And then one wire that was broken and not securely attached to the breaker right here has sort of sprung up, and it's within about a millimeter of that other wire. And if they were to touch it, would not, that's not what you want. So have a licensed electrician clean that up. There's another view of the same thing. Now you can see this wire is the one I'm talking about that's almost touching this other wire. So it's a situation we really don't want. So have the electrician correct that. And then this conduit coming out of the bottom of the box needs to be secured and clamped, and it just is out there flopping around. So that tells me for sure a licensed electrician didn't do that. The labels here, it says LTS, which stands for lights generally in an electric panel. So these must have been lighting circuits in the past, and now they've wired these two 240 amp breakers for the Instahot. So I'd recommend those be correctly labeled. And we'll come back to the electrical thing when we get back inside the house. Almost all the outlets in the house are ungrounded. The only one I found that was grounded was next to the kitchen sink. This is in the bathroom. You can see the little G here. It's not lit up, so that's an ungrounded outlet. It's right above the sink in the bathroom. Anywhere you have electricity near water, it's a good idea to have GFCI protection. Those are the outlets with the little buttons on them. It's an extra layer of safety. So there weren't any in the house, so I'd recommend a licensed electrician GFCI protect all the outlets that it makes sense to do that too. This is under the bathroom sink. So plumbing fittings are all approved by a governing body that approves plumbing fittings. And this is not. This is a Home Depot special because as homeowners, we're not plumbers and we have a hard time getting things to line up correctly. You can see how these are offset. So they make these thin-walled, flexible drain pipes. They tend to crack because they're so thin-walled. I ran a lot of water through it. It's not leaking today, but I just want you to know, keep an eye out here because it's likely that's going to fail at some point, and have a plumber do a proper drain for you. The window in the shower. Windows in showers are not the best idea, but we've got one. One of the things I like to look for is that the sill be slanted towards the shower rather than level. And in this case, it's level, and then they put trim in front of it that's higher than the sill. So they've effectively made a little basin here that's going to catch water. And that's not the way this should be done. So I'd recommend this be reconfigured, have a licensed contractor reconfigure this so it's going to shed water properly. Eventually what can happen is you get water inside the wall here, and that leads to damage. So this is at the Instahot in the laundry room. Again, this wire is unprotected. They didn't bring the conduit all the way up to the Instahot. So these are unprotected wires that should be in a conduit. They also need to be attached to the wall. So have a licensed electrician clean that up. There's the EcoSmart hot water maker that worked well. There's a carbon monoxide alarm near the bedrooms like the state requires. Smoke alarm was only in the hallway. I recommend one in every bedroom and one of every change of ceiling height. It's inexpensive, cheap insurance. This electrical box on the front porch is not well attached to the house, and water is able to get back down in behind there, so I'd recommend that be corrected by a licensed electrician. The fan built into the microwave above the stove just recirculates back into the room. It's a one-story house with an attic, so it wouldn't be hard to have that vented up and out to the outside. It's just a suggestion. The outlet just to the right of the kitchen sink is grounded, but it's not GFCI protected, so I'd recommend an electrician do that. The outlet on the other side of the kitchen above the counter, actually where I'm standing right now, zoom out, you can see that, is ungrounded, as are most of the other outlets in the house. And the reason they're ungrounded is because they're fed with knob and tube wiring. I'll talk about that a little more in a second here. Here's just another example, an outlet in the living room, also ungrounded. The there's knob and tube wiring, and that's what feeds those outlets that are ungrounded, because it's a two-wire system. There's a hot and a neutral. There's no ground wire. At some point after the house was built, someone blew in this insulation and covered the knob and tube wiring, which you're not supposed to do. And it's not really considered safe because heat can build up. And then on top of that, at some later point, someone added this fiberglass batt insulation, further insulating and trapping any kind of heat that might build up in those wires. So my recommendation is that all the insulation be removed and that the knob and tube wiring be removed and replaced with modern Romex, and then the insulation be put back. That's just a photo to remind me what the roof's made of. It's a hand-framed roof with skip sheeting and plywood. Under the house, there were some electrical splices that were just laying on the ground and wires that were laying on the ground. These should be attached to the structure. The splices should be put in a box that's attached to the structure with a cover on it. And then we're back out front. If you have any questions after you've seen this and read my report, feel free to call me. Thank you.